Luka Doncic scored a career high of 73 points in the Dallas Mavericks victory over the Atlanta Hawks tonight. So the Mavericks won 148 to 143. And I have to say, these 70-point games are happening in abundance these days. That's one thing that really strikes out to me. If you look at it, in the last several years, we've had Devin Booker, we've had Donovan Mitchell, we've had Damian Lillard, we've had Joel Embiid, and now Luka Doncic scores 70 or more. Prior to 2017, we only had Kobe, who had scored 81 points back in 2006, and Dave Robinson in 94 scoring 71 points. So think about it. Prior to 2017, between 94 and 2017, we only had two people to score 70 or more. And that shows you how hard that is. Just that was very rare back then. And if you go even further, but way back, even before the 90s, you had to go all the way back to 1978 for the last person to score 70 or more, which is David Thompson in 1978 when he scored 73 points. So that's really insane. So if you go from beyond 1977 up until 2006, you only had three people to score 70 or more. Think about it. Only three people to do it. David Thompson, 78, Dave Robinson in 1994, and Kobe in 2006. But since 2017, we've had Devin Booker, Joel Embiid, Luka, Damian Lillard, and I think that's about like five people who have scored 70 or more. So that's absurd. Five people have scored 70 or more since 2017, while prior to 2017, in those like nearly 40 plus years, you only had three people to do it. And I feel that really shows that the NBA is broken, that the league is just officially broken. Granted, I think it's been broken for a while, but I feel this week with these 70-point performances by Embiid and Luka really shows that there's no way to play defense in this era. And it's not to knock Doncic or Embiid. I really love Luka's game. I have a lot of respect for his game, and I've found him exciting to watch, especially during the playoffs. To see how he takes over, to me, it's been amazing, especially when he torched the Clippers his first few years in the league during the playoffs, to do it against elite defenders and Kawhi and PG. That was nothing short of amazing. So this is not me hating on him. He's a great player. I think he would be great in any era. So I'm not saying he would be garbage in the 90s or 2000s, but I'm just saying there's no defensive resistance, and it takes the fun out of the game when it's this easy. That is so common. It's not even really exciting anymore. I don't find this exciting like I did growing up during the 90s. Think about it. Like when I was growing up, the Dave Robinson was the only guy to score above 70. It happened once, and it was amazing to see the headlines of that. But I just remember whenever Jordan dropped a 50-point game or even got his rare 60-point game, it was a treat because it didn't happen often. Like, it was just such a rarity. You didn't see many guys scoring 50 or more. So when that happened, it was really a big deal. But today it's just so common. I think Devin Booker scored 60 this week also. So it just shows you how insane scoring has gotten. But this is all due to the league taking away all the defensive rules to have a resistance to the offense. Like, I just felt they made that effort during the 2000s when they first got rid of the defensive 3-second, when they first implemented the defensive 3-second rule, which wouldn't allow guys to stay in the paint more than 3 seconds. And I think that played a role in breaking the defense, but also them getting rid of hand checking. I know some people will say, like, well, they passed rules against hand checking during the late 90s, but I'll say this: they didn't enforce them. They really didn't. They started to enforce the hand checking rules after the '05 finals with the Spurs and Detroit Pistons. The league panicked. They saw how bad the ratings were, and they didn't want to see more teams playing this style of basketball. because a lot of people complained about the low scoring games, and it was a copycat league. It always has been. So like you see right now, a bunch of teams jack up threes. Back then everybody was trying to be like the Spurs and Pistons defensively, because that was the best way to win games. It was the quickest way to win games. You didn't need to have that many talented offensive players to win. So it was a pretty good model to have, and the league definitely didn't want that to continue. So that's why they started to strip away defenses. And I remember after '05, they started to enforce it more, hand checking, but they weren't that hardcore, but you could feel the change. And every year after, it got weaker and weaker. And then when the 2010s started, it started to really diminish by a huge rate. And I think the final nail in the coffin was, I think it might have been 2017 or 2018 when they got that new bullshit rule, like I think freedom of motion or freedom of offense, something like that. Freedom of movement. Yeah, freedom of movement rule. And that completely destroyed defenses. So now you're having these horrible games where there's no resistance, and it's not fun. So I have to say this, the league is broken, and it's pretty sad just that you don't see guys being challenged, that they're not really getting the challenge, and it's just too easy now. So I think the game obviously favors offense. The pendulum has swung way too far on that end, and I'm just waiting for it to swing back on the defensive end. I think eventually it'll happen. Obviously not sometime this decade. I don't think it will, but I would say give it 10 or 12 years. I think things do change eventually. People will get sick and tired of this stuff. It'll get boring. I do feel we'll have a moment where some guy scores more than 100 points, and that's when things will change. It'll get absurd. I definitely think someone's going to break 100. I expect that to happen in some like game where it goes to double or triple overtime sometime in the next 7 years. So yeah, that's all I had to say about this.